All right, okay, so good afternoon everyone and welcome to the latest MGAA webinar. Today we are actually joined from two of our supplier members, that being Softelligence and Instander, and they'll be presenting on the improving customer experience and operational efficiency with personalisation at scale. So it should be a good presentation today. Adrian, if you could just nip to the next slide, please. For those regulars, this won't be a bit of a surprise. We just run through a few housekeeping rules. All participants are automatically muted as standard. That's just to prevent any background noise and so the speakers can be heard effectively. We really want this to be as engaging and as interactive webinar as possible, so please feel free to ask a question anytime throughout the webinar. To ask a question, just go to your panel either at the top or bottom of your screen, click on chat, and send a message through to myself, and I will raise that at the Q&A section of the presentation. Just for clarity, the webinar is being recorded and we will upload that to the website as a podcast. And finally, we will be sending out feedback forms following the webinar just to learn what went well and where we can improve the user experience. Can we go to the next slide, please? So just coming on to our speakers before I pass over to Adrian. So our main speaker today is Adrian Lideris, who's an entrepreneur and founder of Softelligence, an international company focused on providing technology consultancy and digital transformation. And we're also joined with Stephen Has from Instander, who are also a global platform provider operating right across the globe in Europe, the United States, LATAM, Australia and Africa. So without further ado, I will pass over to Adrian, who will run through the learning objectives and the main body of the presentation. Adrian.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for the introduction. Hello everyone, and thank you for joining this webinar. I'm Adrian from Softelligence. As you guessed from my beautiful accent, I'm Eastern European. And I'm happy to sit in front of you today with Stephen, representing our partner Instander. Stephen?
Yeah, also of Eastern European descent. My father's Hungarian, but proudly born and bred in Bristol, and spent a lot of time in the London insurance market, most recently at AXA, but now very happily working in a much smaller organisation in Instander, and really happy to be here, and thank you all for taking the time to join us today.
So why are we here today? So basically I believe we are here because of the fact that the primary goal of any business is to offer value to its customers. So in that sense, being customer first should be the main drive of any business initiatives. Nowadays, the expectations from customers are very different from those in more traditional times. For instance, if you have your clients manually filling in forms, that is not necessarily a desirable customer experience. And the services that are offered need to step up to the challenge of the changing human behaviors. This means that the digital transformation is becoming an imperative, and it comes most of the time from outside the business, then from inside, and it creates a shift in the mindset in the market, so that the digital transformation cannot be just an item on the agenda of the IT department. So basically, we are here to discuss about customer experience. We are here to discuss about operational efficiency by creating, very personal offerings and experiences for the clients of any business. So what is personalization, why at scale, and why now? Obviously, when we are talking about personalization of a service or of a product, we are talking about people and their experience in interacting with something, be it a product, be it an application, be it a service that we are offering. And in the very recent years, we have witnessed the birth and ascensions of companies that have either disrupted businesses or innovated to the point where the initial shape of the company changed in unrecognizable ways. These are companies that are either digital natives, and I'm thinking about Uber or Airbnb or Amazon, or, and this gives us a bit of hope, incumbents that have radically transformed the way that they are doing business, like Netflix. You may wonder, what has it got to do with me, or think we have yet to see something similar in the insurance business, and I would have said that you wouldn't have been very far from the truth at last until the beginning of the year, when our life changed so dramatically, especially in the way that we are interacting with one another. I would say that we are doing this these days more and more in electronic ways rather than face-to-face. And in a business that is B2B, this is especially important because most of the times the offering of a bespoke experience is tightly linked to the close human interaction with the representatives of your businesses, of your business customers, of course. That has been drastically diluted these days. We also need to take into consideration that the same people that buy insurance products, simple or more sophisticated, are also the customers of Uber, Amazon, and Netflix. And these companies have become so popular that they are setting new standards in customer experience, personalized offerings, and micro-segmentations. They are in fact guiding in some way the customers to the right, in the right direction and to the right decision in ecosystems of services and products that otherwise would be impossible to navigate. So this is how powerful platforms like Amazon or Alibaba give digital natives a global reach and a towering market capitalization. While this is no secret, these platforms raise difficult questions for the leaders of incumbent companies pushing ahead with their own digital transformation journeys. Should we emulate the front runners? Should we join forces with them, or not play at all maybe? Not playing at all may seem the riskiest choice of all, because in these days we could say that platforms beat products at any moment. Yet building your own platform in most markets where global platforms are already thriving may be like an arm wrestling with a bulldozer. While there may be nicely built platforms that you can partner with, the cultural shift towards a focus on people rather than products, and customer journeys rather than processes, it's a bit of a tougher nut to crack. If I'm to quote one of John Evans's articles on TechCrunch, the interesting thing about the technology business is that most of the time is not the technology that matters. What matters is how people react to it and what new social norms it forms. And as I was saying a slide ago, new social norms regarding customer centricity have been already formed. Turning back and ignoring them is like saying that, well, Apple iPhone is going to be a bigger marketing flop than the iPad, because the user will detest the touchscreen interface, as you know, a famous blogger, David Platt, was predicting. Now we all see what happened with that technology. So I believe that the first two prerequisites of driving through useful, delightful personalization, because of, in the absence of them, personalization cannot happen, is having tools that are actually going to help with that. Stephen, is that what you see as well?
Yeah, no, thanks, Adrian. And I think I'd pick up on and build on a few of the issues that you've raised. I think one, as you've mentioned, in terms of people, yes, everything really is a people business. So technology is a key element for many organizations, but it's not the only element. Just picking up on this slide now, the colourful wiggly worm here. I mean, I think, you know, within the MGA market, same as in any market, life is never 100% clear and the journey is never 100% straight. What we're trying to show here is just some of the trends that we have been informed about in the MGA market. Now as in standard, we don't work with every MGA. We haven't sadly spoken to every MGA, but of the MGAs we have spoken to, these were some of the key elements that we picked up on. Certainly, I mean, in a market saturation can always be an issue. You know, if demand and supply is not balanced, then you have some tensions. Market hardening, we all know that. Those of us who've worked in the London insurance market for a while, the market goes through cycles, and the market was hardening even prior to COVID. So there are capacity issues. The options are reducing, and we certainly have seen insurers getting cautious about who they work with and what capacity they're providing. Therefore, it means that if you are going to come in as a new entrant, you've got to be very, very focused. There's no longer easy pickings there. So what are the key niche areas that a new entrant can come in and focus on? Or what are the niches that existing entrants can increasingly turn their attention to ensure they're not just competing with everybody on price, but they can also be competing on service and quality of proposition. Now, when you have a competitive market, you've got oversupply, you've got insurers who are reining back on capacity, then attention also has to focus on things like operational efficiencies. We all want to run our businesses efficiently, minimize our outgoing costs, obviously maximize our incoming revenue and drive profitability. But how really can we do that? Well, it's a range of things. It's making sure that the processes are clean and efficient, and they're always focused on the needs of the client. And that really brings in the next piece, which is what are the needs of the client or the customer? Are they static? Are they the same now as they were 15 years ago? Are they the same as they were 15 months ago? And yeah, in COVID terms, are the needs of the client right now the same as they were just a few short months ago? So I think ability to react quickly to the market is important. And you know, a competitive market, more so than any others, are going to demand relevant products. And as a client, my demands today may well be different to what they were yesterday. So I think it's really important that MGAs can meet those expectations of brokers, customers, clients. And one really strong way to do that is to be more personalized, or another word we use is bespoke. I wouldn't want anybody to hear the word personalized and think this only applies to a retail customer. We know that many MGAs work in the retail space, but also many work in SME and commercial space. So you can personalize things obviously for the retail client, but you can also personalize or bespoke them for your commercial customers as well. And I think that's something, that trend is definitely going to continue. And what we've certainly seen is that some organizations have always done this, and that's part of their DNA. Others, perhaps, as Adrian said earlier, are a bit more process focused and are now trying to turn their attention to customer journeys. But a key element there is whether your organization, your people, and your technology allow you to do that. Some platforms are very flexible. That's great. They can support this type of personalization. Some are less flexible. And we've certainly seen a trend from people moving away from building their own technology to saying what can they leverage. And when we look at technology, we're not just talking about a single platform like in Standard or any of the other platforms that are available to you, but how can you use all of the technology that's out there and bring it all together? And Adrian used the word ecosystem earlier, and we'll touch on that a bit later in our presentation. Adrian?
Yes, thanks, Stephen. I think it's also money time. So basically, what's the price? What's the price of you know, driving through hyper personalization in services and products? And McKinsey is evaluating the you know, value created either by you know, attracting new customers or by decreasing costs and having revenue growth to $500 billion US. And I would dare to speculate that due to recent events related to forcibly moving many services in digital, the value is much larger, and it's likely that a lot of the customers that have converted to digital will stick to digital after this immediate health crisis is over. Hopefully it will be over at some point. The companies who made the shift to digital, I think they will have a definite advantage over those who are still looking at doing things in the traditional way. And probably in the following years, we will see things, a combination of the two. However, things will be moving more and more to digital platforms, ecosystems, and digital interactions. Stephen, I think it's how do you see this personalized, bespoke customer journey? So what are the some of the things that are going on in there? What are the prerequisites?
Sure. So just some of the things that I think are perhaps important for businesses to consider when they're looking at personalizing and creating a bespoke customer journey, as I said, whether for a retail client or a commercial client. Obviously, having your finger on the pulse, understanding the market needs, being in touch with your clients and your customers is really important. There's not too much technology that can help with that, and I think that's always been one of the great things about the London insurance market, that ability to interact with a huge and thriving market and get a sense of where things are moving. As Adrian said earlier, perhaps a little bit harder in the COVID stage, but there's nothing to stop us still engaging with our clients, and I'm sure we're all Zooming regularly. But I think there are two or three things that might be worth giving attention to. One of them is dynamic question sets. If you have a new risk that's coming towards you and you need to understand that risk, whether it's an individual or a business, there's a lot of information you need to know. And obviously the traditional way of getting that information might have been asking a lot of questions. And I'm sure we've all seen in our personal life or business life, when you get a questionnaire set, you run through it and you think, I've answered this before. Why are they asking the same question? This isn't relevant to me. Very frustrating. Obviously, what you can do is make those question sets much more dynamic. So based on the information you're asking and the answers you get, you can then say, right, I don't need the next 20 questions. I can just go straight for the key killer question that I need to be able to price this risk. Not every organization works that way. It isn't essential. You can obviously do business by just asking the same old standard set of questions to everybody. But the ability to make the question set dynamic, the ability to make it really relevant to that client's needs, I think is very, very powerful, because we all want to be understood. We all want to be listened to, and to have a mechanism that does that dynamically and changes the questions depending upon your needs is really, really powerful. Obviously, bespoking user interface and user experience tremendously important, and that can be depending upon the nature of the client that comes to your site. Do you present things in a different way? Do you have a different look and feel? Do you have a different flow based on the nature of their business? If they're a big business or a small business, do you give them a different kind of environment for them to land in? And I think the third thing that is really important, and I think is so powerful at the moment, are integrations and data enrichment. And by this I mean the ability for your technology in your business to go out and use other bits of technology that are sitting out there. You may be doing this all the time, every day, and been doing it for years. You may be a business that's dabbling with this. You may not have done this. But as I said earlier, I think it's not anymore the case that you go to a single piece of technology which answers all of your needs and provides everything for you. There may be something out there that does all of that, but I think it's also a good way to get locked into a particular space. Far better and far more powerful, I think, for organizations to think of running a digital ecosystem where they can plug in and plug out the right data, the right services that they need. We've highlighted 5 logos here, but there are hundreds more. Some of these data services, Companies House, It's free, it's real time, gives you live and very quick feedback. You send in information about a company, it comes back and gives you the information you need. There are things like Data 8, which gives you address validation, bank account validation, email validation, name validation, phone number validation. All of that's available at the click of a switch. Cytora is a very powerful and capable tool set, data set used for underwriting and used for a whole host of other data and risk-related services. CarWeb, anybody who's in the motor space may be using CarWeb or something like it. So with those tools, it is possible just with a single postcode, for example, to be able to get a huge amount of information about an address, retail or commercial, when was it constructed, what's the nature of the crime in the area, what's the flood risk, who were the last ex-residents of that address, etc., etc. So there's an awful lot that you can do by drawing information that's either freely available or for a small transactional charge to bring in, enrich your data set, make the customer's journey much more simple, and actually something you can explain to them. You know, using this postcode, I've got all this information about your risk, about your property. This is how I'm thinking now about rating your deal, rating your price. This is why the premium is what it is. And I think that creates a much more powerful and engaging journey. So these are just some of the things that people can do, provided they've got the right outlook and they've got the right technology that allows this integration. Adrian?
Yeah, so if I'm to build on top of what Stephen said and actually boil down personalization to its basics, I think I would say that we are dealing with what we could call the 4 Ds of personalization. So all of you are sitting on a big amount of data in your line of business applications, in your, or between the line of business applications, in the Excel spreadsheets and Access databases, or in the emails and everything else. And I think the most important thing is actually to get some cohesion here, to create the data foundation that would enable us to have a 360 customer view. Because as we were saying, personalization is about the customer. Then once we clean that data, we ran data quality processes on top of it, I think we can look at exploiting the data and driving insights through what we would call a decisioning kind of system or process, which means that we will be getting all sorts of informations that are not necessarily readily available about the customers, or information about the current customers that can be applied to external prospects, for instance. And then once we got that information, it is very important to act on them very quickly and to get to the design phase, and based on those insights, create customized products, customized offering, customized quotes, and things that are an agile marketing team could use to drive experimentation. And once we've actually designed all those micro targeted offerings, it is very important to have a distribution system, be it a classical distribution system like an email campaign, or a more sophisticated distribution system like a mobile app that can send push notifications to the customers. What is really important for the distribution system is that the distribution system will actually feed back the information. The customers need to have the ability to interact in two ways with the campaign that you drove. So basically, they need to be reacting, like a link or a call to action, and to go back into the platform, and the platform should be able to actually put together and generate more data, and that data should be fed back into the data foundation and so on, so that the cycle begins again. One final note on this slide is that there's another visible trend that drives things from isolated apps towards ecosystems, and it's natural to be so, because if you stop to think, a lot of companies are doing digital transformation efforts, and those companies are actually flooding the internet, flooding the virtual space with a lot of digital services and products. And the users, the end users, must be able to interact with those, to search them, to find the things that actually fit them the best. And you can actually tap into a lot of existing ecosystems, like Amazon's ecosystem, like Apple's ecosystem and Google, and a diversion. This is basically what is driving the huge valuations of these companies, the ability to link all these things together. And I would dare to say that the main ingredient in being relevant and successful into an ecosystem is actually to create very good products, very customized products that fits the customer's needs, so that when they search for them, your product will come at first. So, Stephen, do you want to complement here a bit, maybe?
Yeah, thanks, Adrian. I would just keep on stressing that point about an ecosystem. I think it's really, really important. I think it's possible to spend weeks and months developing something that is available and is far better for free, that is out there. And it's something I know, having worked as a COO in a number of large insurers and been responsible for IT. The IT guys and girls like to build things themselves, but life isn't always about giving people what they want or what they enjoy, but it's about doing what's effective. And I certainly think a part of the IT focus in any business now should really be external focused, and not just looking at what's the next package to buy, but what are the services that I can buy, what are the things I can plug into, and certainly the way in which we think about things in Instander is very simply, we just want to be part of the insurance ecosystem. We don't aspire to do everything for everybody, and we want to play nicely with others, so that if there are things to integrate with, whether it be legacy technology or other platforms or other data services, then we should make that as easy as possible. And I think if that's the mentality of businesses, that they're assembling the best of what's out there, bringing it together, making products, as Adrian said, that are relevant to the customer, and then maybe in 6 months' time you plug something out and say, I don't need this anymore, I'm going to put something else in. And I think that whole focus on ecosystem is really, really important, and why it's at the center of this diagram. Adrian?
So I would start with this bit moving forward the presentation in talking a little bit about data, because as we say in soft intelligence, everything starts with data, and data is the stepping stone in personalization. The main ingredient in exploiting the data resources that you have at hand are, well, neither the processes nor the technologies, but the people and their habits in using data. That's why if we think about how people are naturally structured and inclined to use their personal feelings rather than insights, we will say that sometimes the data insights are counterintuitive. Take, for instance, a the underwriting decisions on complex products. Let's say you have a broker, the broker implements the rating of the product according to the recommendations, and under certain circumstances, a quote gets referred to a human underwriter. And this human underwriter obviously has the final decision on the pricing. Now, is she going to use her intuition, or is she going to use the data? And the next question is, how can we actually help the underwriter to use the data and overcome her own human biases, and so that we can speed up the decision process and create an end customer experience as frictionless as possible. And I think this is something that we can achieve, but it has a lot to do with every person in the organization and how they embrace this data-driven culture. So, Stephen, how is this data world seen from a platform perspective? So, what a platform can do actually to instill good habits in people and how they use data?
Yeah, I mean, it's a really big topic, and I think, as some people say, is data the new oil? Is it the new asbestos? I think that there are huge opportunities from leveraging data, but, increasingly there are also risks. And I think we'll touch on those in a little bit more detail. But I think it's one of the points I raised earlier was about being part of an open digital ecosystem. So I think what it's important for the way we look at it as a platform, and the way I would hope all technology providers would look at it, is to make your platforms, your technology as open as possible, so that you can bring in data from a wide range of sources and services. As I've already touched on, I think at some length, making sure that the platform is open to integration, so it can bring data from a whole host of services and sources. I think data culture is really important. Just because it's on the internet doesn't mean it's true. Just because you've got an integration that works doesn't mean it's correct. So I think having that real diligence, getting the data to flow is one part of the problem. Making sure it's the right data, that it's validated, that it's actually relevant for the application you're going to use it for, I think is really, really important. And some people overlook that. They get blinded by the, wow, look, I've connected to this database, I've drawn down this data. Yeah, but was it the right bit? Did you get the gross number, or did you get the net number? Did you put it in the right place? So I think, having that real data intelligence in the organization, and making sure obviously that the data is really used to drive value, because you can again get seduced by all the data that's out there that you can collect, and you're not collecting the relevant bits to add value to your client. So I think those are some cultural elements, and as I say, from a technology point of view, making sure you've got really strong open architecture, you've got good security. No point getting all your clients' data in one place if it's hackable. So security is imperative, and making sure that you build quality into the platform. So validation, checks, reports, all of those things, seem obvious, but a lot of platforms go out without that. Yeah, so just some of the things that we could talk for a lot longer on that, Adrian.
So up until now, I think we have been, somewhat abstract about this thing about personalization, and I was thinking about focusing a common process like prospecting, which is actually getting new customers, and how would this process would look like from using the data perspective, and from the perspective of actually increasing the ROI, increasing the conversion in prospecting. So basically, as Stephen was saying, I hope you have an open platform that plays nicely with others, and you have in there, nicely designed code and bind processes, and you have policies, and you have customer data, and all that data, let's say that is structured in such a way that would make this, you know, the quote and bind process, for instance, or the policy admin as smooth as possible, as efficient as possible. Obviously, this is not the way, is not necessarily centered on the customer, and is not necessarily centered on analysis. And that is why you will probably need to get the data out from the platform and create some sort of customer-centric data mart. So a place where, well, your customer entity is in the middle of everything in there, okay? And with this customer 360 or consumer 360, on top of this, you can run analytics, you know, things like, I don't know, artificial intelligence, machine learning. And in our case, let's say that we are using the existing codes to try to predict the renewal dates of the policies and the insured values. So basically, if I have let's say a prospect, a potential new customer, and somehow by magic I get the list of these prospects, I can actually run them through this model, and the model will tell me with some precision when are they most likely wanting to buy a new policy, and what exactly is going to be the insured value. And obviously we can call this in a more let's say posh way a data platform. It doesn't necessarily to be, but these are the steps that are going to be taken. And I think here having an API integration is really important, because into the next step, what we are going to do is use some sort of a prospect database. Okay, it's the data that we can get from outside the company. For instance, we go, let's say we have I don't know, a very focused product on health or on special care, and we can actually go into the company's house and get a list of these companies, okay, that are providing such services. And then we can use the companies that are not necessarily our customers, but we would like them to be, and run them through the model and create some what we would call a fast quote, a tailored offer, especially for them. And then we can set up some sort of a recurring campaign and say, okay, this month I'm going to email this tailored offer, bespoke offer to all the prospects that are going to have a renewal date next month, okay? And I'm going to distribute that, as I said, via email. I can have a website, an app. I can have integration with the marketplace. And in this way, this fast quote, well, it will get to the prospect, right? And now, if I had been a prospect, if I were a prospect, I would look to you know, renew my policy. I would actually, and you know, get this message in my inbox. So of course, with all the GDPR things and so on. I would be very interested in moving forward if this is a very competitive offer, or it's a service that is better designed, is covering better risks than, or more risks that I'm having covered now. And what I will do is actually I will click, or I will interact on the channel, and that will basically start the quote and bind flow, right? So now, where did we start? In the open platform, where we had the quote and bind flow. Right now, we are back into the quote and bind flow and back into the platform, right? So is this flow possible? I think it can be possible. But let's see how it actually maps with the 4Ds of personalization. So basically what we have data here. When we say we create the customer-centric data mart, we have decisioning, where we we use the current database to get the insights. We have design, where we are designing a tailored offer, and we have distribution. Or, in a more unified way, we would say that we have an existing infrastructure, okay, that existing infrastructure can be on premises, can be on cloud. Personally, I like cloud more because it gives you more flexibility from a pricing perspective, and not only. Then on top of this infrastructure, we have the open platform, right? And we get from out of the open platform what we would call transaction data, quotes, interactions with the customers, and then we create this data mart where we have tools like dashboards, we use data quality processes, we use master data management, all that in order to put it together and center around the customer. So basically we have this customer 360 view. Now what do we do with this view? Basically on top of that we are running decisioning algorithms. We are running the things that actually will give us customer insights. Okay, and we were saying that this is can be called the data platform. Okay, it can be as a service, it can be on premises. Again, I think the as a service option is actually more flexible, and it grows with you. And then we get those insights, and via some real-time triggers, via some API, some integration, we go into a place where we can have a system that runs some sort of a digital product factory. Okay, and in there we have the possibility to tune and create those specialized bespoke offerings. Okay, and then via integration we employ the distribution channels. I am talking here about marketplace enablement, but it can also be more mundane thing like some sort of a CRM sending a targeted campaign. And this is what we would call a digital process automation bit. And when the customers are getting our products and they are interacting with them, they are basically feeding back information into the platform. From a general perspective, these are how the key components are falling together. And another key element here is that you are not necessarily bound to do all of these from the beginning. You don't necessarily need a full-blown data lake to do that, or a data warehouse, or you don't necessarily need to employ artificial intelligence or machine learning in order to drive the decisioning. You can use, instead of artificial intelligence, some human intelligence, somebody that actually looks at some dashboards and observes some insights, and actually is driven to act on the insights, into some your product factory, and create, something bespoke offering using Excel, for instance. But what is really important to notice here is that in this kind of business architecture, as Stephen was saying, integration is the key. If you are getting, looking to get a new platform right now, make sure that that platform is going to integrate nicely with other things. It's able to put data out and actually get more data in, or that the flows and the customer journeys that are in the data platform can be, let's say, called from outside the data platform. So talking about the prerequisites of deploying true personalization across an MGA, I would say that again, everything starts with data. So without clean connected data, there can be no customer 360, and your efforts being, human intelligence, artificial intelligence, machine learning are going to have a very limited scope and they are going to be very expensive to integrate. Especially if we are talking about, getting data from outside, from the data sources, external data sources like Companies House or Red Flag. I'm not saying that you should wait, start on this journey and wait until you become truly data-driven, because this journey is both very long, can be very long, and it's also the kind of journey where you set a goal, but you don't necessarily know from the beginning which is the best way that you can take, because it's driven by the, the way that your collective intelligence of the people in the company is going to react on this one. So I think the minimal level where you should start is being a data specialist. And you can be a data specialist having standardized reporting, having a controlled data without duplicates, and users, business people have access to that reporting can be enabled also via the platform that you are driving. And you will see that once you deploy personalized services, some sort of a virtuous circle is created where between the maturity journey, the data maturity journey, and the benefits that you are reaping from the personalized services. So basically, the data maturity journey will be, you will need to accelerate on that, because you will understand that the more data you have and the more insights you can drive, then you can personalize your offers better and get the best ROI. And this is basically what you want, right? As an approach for implementation, so how do we approach things at us at Softelligence? We say that we always deal with some existing business process, right? You can think about quote and bind, you can think about claims management, you can think about midterm adjustments on, a lot of other things. And that process has some legacy dynamics, which means, people are interacting with the process in a certain way. They do certain things at certain moments. They, they have certain touch points with the customers and so on. And the first step is actually to, if that process is done, manually or via email or via Excel, is to digitalize that process, right? To create a digital process. And in doing that, you use the main tools that you are using are obviously platforms and services, customization services on top of those platforms. So you can even decide to build it yourself. You can buy it off the shelf if you can find something that is, very suited for what you want, but most of the times is building and buying. And at this point, you have the digital process, and let's say you can deploy it, and it starts. People start interacting with it. But the very next question that you would ask is, how do I know if this process is running as supposed to? How do I know if I'm getting back the ROI? And you will need analytics. You will need dashboards. You would need to track KPIs, right? And based on those KPIs, you can improve the process. So at that point, we would say that you have a data-centric process. Now, the digitalization of the process and the process becoming data-centric, I think it's slightly simultaneous, because it's very important to employ insights and to get access to KPIs as soon as possible. So as soon as the process is going live, you should have the dashboards as well. And after a while, you can start looking at artificial intelligence, machine learning. People will start to actually get acquire the taste of an innovation culture. And I think the next generation of business process is a process that improves itself. It's a process where it tracks its own KPIs and it adjusts the flows up to the point where you get the optimal results. Now, there is a trick here. You can't take an existing business process, a legacy business process, and digitalize it as it is. Because that will not create the best customer experience. So let me give you an example. Let's say that you have a step in the process, and Stephen was saying earlier, there are a lot of steps like this where you have a lot of data entry, right? And let's say you need the customer data, and then you type in the customer data, and the customer would think, well, these days we have things like optical character recognition. Why don't I actually show you my driver's license, and you get all the significant data out of there yourself. So this is a thing where you can get what we would call friction, in the interaction with the customer. Another friction point can be the point where a customer needs to physically sign things, and one may wonder, why would you do that? So why would you physically sign things this day when you have digital signature, and it's readily available? And if you have, for instance, if you want to have a Monzo card, you will do it, get through the whole thing in like, I don't know, 10 or 15 minutes. Why can't I have this thing on my own? So I think this is where some business consulting is actually coming into place in order to advise and guide things in the direction where the things that are readily available, some of them free of charge, are actually integrated into the process, into creating a digital process from the beginning. Now, at this point, I would very much like to ask Stephen to talk to us about Instanda's experience, maybe give us some, information about the case study or something like that. You are on mute, Stephen.
Sorry, yeah, I was hoping for the traditional "you're on mute" statement. It's in every call now. Maybe stay on this slide. I think. Maybe Adrian, sorry, just go back to that slide briefly if you can.
Yeah, sorry. Here.
Yeah, just say I think this is a good slide, and the one before, and I think for everybody out there, I think you probably all realise that you can't get necessarily from where you are now to where you need to go in one big step. That's often complex and painful, making a big jump, because you don't always know exactly where you need to jump. And I think, as Adrian was saying, sometimes it is a bit of a quest. What I think is really important is making sure that whatever tools, foundations you have don't lock you in, that they don't drive you in only one direction. And then when you go there, you think, oh gosh, I've painted myself into a corner. This isn't where I wanted to be. So having something which gives you flexibility is really important. I think we've covered a lot of ground in this presentation and probably thrown out some quite scary terms, AI and machine learning. Maybe not every business is using that right now, and maybe not every business needs to use it. So you can be very successful without doing everything that we've touched on today. You can be very successful by taking some of these steps. And certainly what we try to do as Instand is understand the client and understand where they're trying to get to and support them as they are. Some people are very happy simply digitizing their existing product. Great, job done. Some people want to transform their products or go into new markets and bring in a more data-centric process. And indeed, we do have some clients who are at that sort of leading edge of AI, machine learning, natural language processing, bringing in handwritten documents, processing them through the system and putting them into the process. So I think, you can be at any point on this journey and you can get to the next point. It doesn't have to be big and scary and expensive as long as you've got the right capabilities and the right platform. And just maybe, Adrian, next slide, and this is our last slide, you'll all be pleased to know. Just, sorry, Adrian, if you move on. I don't know if okay, it's coming up now. So just a bit of a shout out to Imperium, one of our existing clients. As I say, we don't work with every MGA, but we work with a few. But just, I think, a brief case study. Imperium, and some of you in the audience, may know them better than I do, but certainly they came to us a number of years ago. They were recently established, and they wanted to expand their footprint, and particularly go into some niche areas in the UK and Irish market. So we've been working with them, I think, for 3-4 years. They've experienced very significant exponential growth, and I think a lot of that, no doubt, due to the strength of the management team and their focus. Certainly, I think they were very targeted on niche areas, so they do a range of products, farm-related products, medical products, sport products, not ones which necessarily have that much synergy between them, but they spotted the niches. They've constructed some very bespoke websites, services, products to meet the needs of their marketplace, and I think I'm correct, the slide says about 25 new products, so something approaching that number that we've or that they have launched. And I think very important to understand that the way in which we work is we provide a platform. You could think of it as a bit like a box of Lego, and I think the Imperium team understand how to build products with that Lego. We are a no-code, low-code platform, and in simple terms what that means is you don't need to be an IT guru to build a product, build a website and get it launched. So I think iSure, as part of Imperium, have been a good model, and I think they've achieved success, as I say, no doubt due to a lot of inherent qualities of their management team and their underwriters and their focus, but we're just pleased to have been a part of that. And what we've brought to it is the kind of issues that I've stressed earlier, and I think there are more than one technology solution that can do this, but it's making sure that it's open, it's flexible, it's simple to use, it doesn't lock you in, it opens you up to the range of integrations and data enrichments that are out there. And that can allow you to then grow your business, target niches, provide bespoke products, and grow successfully as I think iSure have proven they can. But I think, Adrian, that closes our presentation at this point. I'm really grateful for everybody taking the time to spend a bit more time staring at a screen. I'm sure we're all doing that a bit more than we would like to, but really keen to take any questions you may have.
Thank you, Adrian. Thank you, Stephen. That was great. As a reminder, I know we've only got a couple of minutes left, but if you do have any questions, please just use the chat function that the Zoom provides. I do have one question here, and I'll open it up to either yourselves presenting. So, how do personalisation and data privacy mix? We obviously know that security is very important. So, how does it kind of mix between personalisation and data privacy?
I think it's, if you look at data privacy, and if you look at the data that you really need to drive personalization, it usually doesn't include what you would call PII, personal identifiable information. Mm-hmm. And what we do, and we did with some of our customers, is actually get an anonymized database. There is also the ethical dilemma when you are getting the data of the customers and you are driving insights out of that. So why are you doing that? For your own personal benefit or your company's benefit? And I think the answer should be yes, for the company's benefit, but mostly for the customer's benefit. Because if we are going if I'm getting an email about a product that I need when I need it, that is tailored for me, I'm going to be a happy customer, and I'm not going to be complaining about the way you used my data. But I think anonymization is an important step here before you actually start doing anything with the data, and also having the customer's best interests in mind is also helping here.
Thank you. Okay, so it's 2 o'clock now, just conscious of time, so we'll look to wrap it up there. Adrian, Stephen, did you have any final comments to make?
I suppose my one would just be, you know, that being open, not trying to do everything yourself, you know, using the best of what is out there, and there's some great tools and great services, I think is really, really key. And if you can exploit all of the tools and capabilities that are out there, you can achieve a lot in that personalisation space and add a lot of value to your clients. Adrian, final words with you?
Yeah, I think, Stephen, I think you're right. So basically, I think you make sure you get good advice and the best of the technology. And obviously, we are here if you want to reach out. As Stephen was saying, it doesn't necessarily cost you a hand and a kidney to do anything in here. So I think it's really important to, you know, to sit and chat and be open. And yeah, we welcome your feedback and your thoughts on this, you know, presentation.
Thank you very much, Adrian, and thank you very much for speaking today, both to yourself and Stephen. We really do appreciate it. And thank you for those members who have joined today's webinar. So I will look to close this particular session, and thank you very much for joining us all.